Every year when Google launches their Pixel devices, the hardware updates feel underwhelming. Like it's just small incremental updates from the previous generation, and we're used to it. That's just how the Pixel devices have always been. But this year, on the Pixel 9 devices, Google has outdone themselves. We now have arguably the least impressive hardware bump we've ever seen on the Pixels. Like it's so minimal. And yet, it was accompanied with a $100 price increase across the board. So we got to talk about them. I was able to spend a little bit of time with all the new Pixel devices, including 3 slab phones and 1 new foldable. The naming around the 3 slab phones is a little bit confusing. So there's the Pixel 9, the Pixel 9 Pro, and then the Pixel 9 Pro XL. The XL though is not some like extra large Pixel Pro. It is, but it's actually the size that we've always been used to. It's like the size that we had last year on the regular Pixel Pro. So this right here is last year's Pixel 8 Pro. And then this is this year's Pixel 9 Pro XL. They're the same size, and even the screen sizes are pretty much the same between them. The new sized phone is actually the Pixel 9 Pro, and it's a size that didn't exist before, but Google thought it was worth it to do, so it's here now. A smaller version of the Pixel Pro product. It's actually the exact same size as a Pixel 9, but the screen on the Pro is actually a little bit bigger because it has thinner bezels. The design is a little bit different this year on the Pixel 9 devices. They're just a more boxy aesthetic. So the curved back that we saw on the Pixel 7 Pro as well as the Pixel 8 Pro, this is like, not that they're exactly the same, but they had the same kind of curved back idea. That design is now gone and been replaced with a flat back. Now, if you look at the previous generation compared to the Pixel 9 Pro, the new Pixel 9 Pro definitely looks more like iPhone-like in terms of just that flat back. But it's still very Pixel. So the big thing is this camera hump. Now, the camera hump used to have, if you look at the previous 2 generations, the Pixel 7 Pro and the Pixel 8 Pro, these both had a camera bar that ran across the full back. And this bar was like a part of the frame. Like this metal frame would come into the camera bar, right? It was just this iconic design that the Pixel devices have had over the past couple of years. The new Pixel 9 Pro, that bar is gone. Like there's just now a hump that protrudes from that back glass. And I think it looks cleaner, but it's not as visually memorable to me as the previous generations. Now in terms of the thickness, the new Pixel 9 Pro is actually a little bit thinner than the Pixel 8 Pro, but it may not seem like that on camera just because the curvature of the older phones just kind of gives an illusion of a thinner device. But when you throw calipers on it, this is slightly thinner as well as being a little bit heavier on the scale. Now the Pro comes in a few colors and it has a matte finish to that back glass. The metal rail still has a polished finish like the previous generations, but the hazel color on the Pro devices look really nice to me. It's like a matte gray finish. I love the look of that. The regular Pixel 9s, like the non-Pros, have more colorful options. So the 2 most interesting colors to me are the winter green and the peony. These look really nice. The peony in particular is like a really vibrant pink, and it's just not what you typically get with Google's Pixel devices. Now the new screens are brighter than the previous generation when you look at paper specs, but when I was at that Google event, it was actually really hard to tell the differences apart. Now I think it was because of the lighting there. It wasn't bright enough for the screens to really pop, but I will say that the bezels are a little bit thinner this year, and might I just add that they're even bezels around the whole device. It's not a big deal to be honest, but it is interesting to me because Google never did it before on the Pixel phones, and it is a more expensive thing to do, right? You gotta get the flexible OLEDs that can wrap around like that. So it's interesting, but regardless, it's a very nice looking screen. And if you wanna protect it with tempered glass, you can use the D-brand glass product. It goes right up to the edge, super clean install. But the Pixel 9 device with the biggest screen is the new Pixel Fold, except instead of it being called the Pixel Fold 2, it's the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Now it's noticeably thinner than the first Pixel Fold and it also has a new snappy hinge, but the one thing that they changed that I was surprised and honestly disappointed by is that they changed the aspect ratio of the whole device, like the front screen and the inside screen. So the original Pixel Fold was quite unique, like it was a more stout and short device and you could easily one-hand operate that front screen. And it was just different from most of the other foldables on the market, particularly the Samsung foldables. But the new Pixel 9 Pro Fold is a taller device with a taller screen, so it's a little bit less one-hand operable. I also will say that the thicker bezels and like the very visible crease were surprising to me at this stage. Like a 2024 foldable, that's $1,800 at the base. I don't know. I was hoping for something a little bit more up to date. Now they did show a new feature that has like these animations that you can play on the front screen to attract the attention of like a very young child or maybe some with attention problems. And you, when the animation goes, you can snap the picture. It's a very kind of like niche scenario that would be useful for, but it is something that I haven't seen before on other devices, at least not yet. Now, all of these new phones will be running a new chip from Google, the Tensor G4. I wasn't able to benchmark this stuff at the event, but from all the leaks we've seen, it's like a very mild performance bump from the previous generation, like maybe 10% better than the G3. But same with storage, the kind of base storage for all of these devices remains unchanged from the previous generation. And camera hardware, for the most part, it's unchanged. Like there are some updates of note, like the front-facing cameras have been updated. Those are supposed to be better. And there's some new software features that I'm assuming comes from the new chip. All this stuff will be tested in the review. But for the most part, camera hardware just didn't have any big hardware changes on the main sensors. The battery sizes are like fractionally larger than the previous generation, at least on the slab phones, but on the folding phone, it's actually a little bit smaller than the previous generation. The optical fingerprint sensors we've seen for years on Pixel devices have been replaced with an ultrasonic one, which should be much more reliable. But the biggest change, at least the most interesting hardware change to me, is actually the RAM size. So the Pixel 9, like the base regular Pixel 9, that's now at 12 gigs of RAM, and the Pixel 9 Pro devices have 16 gigs of RAM, which is a crazy amount of memory for a phone. And the reason for all this RAM is because of Google's AI endeavors, particularly through Google Gemini. I was shown a few things. There's two that came to mind. The first one that they showed me was some camera feature called Add Me. And the idea behind this is that in situations when you are with a friend or with a group of people and you want a photo of everybody there, someone from your group has to go out and take a picture, and then that person who took the picture, he's left out in the photo. Like he's not in the photo because he took it. And the idea behind this feature is that you can do a little bit of swap-a-roni and the software will stitch it together and give you a composed picture where everybody is in it. And it's neat. So I tried it out with Maddie Hapuya, and I took the first photo and then we swapped, and it's kind of neat how that first photo shows up as like a 3D object in the camera app, so you can use it as guidance to match up the framing. And this is what we got.
All right, you good?
Yeah, go for it.
Dude, it worked!
We were pleasantly surprised. Like there's some very clear artifacting going on and some hover hand, but it was a neat thing that did solve a problem for some people, right? It's not for everyone, it's a very niche case, but it is interesting, and I do think that the extra memory that's on these devices helps to be able to pull those off, because you do need to load that photo in like a 3D space while you're shooting it, so maybe that's what the RAM was for. Now, the other AI feature that they demoed was much more interesting to me. So this was called Pixel Screenshots, and the idea behind this is that like for people with smartphones that take a bunch of screenshots here and there to either like remember something, or if they're just interested in something or just want to be able to recall it in the future, usually that pile of screenshots just grows and grows. And if you ever do need to recall something, it's very difficult to kind of go through all of those screenshots and find the thing that you're looking for. But with this new AI feature, you can search through those screenshots with some conversational prompts. And I tested it out a few times. Sometimes it worked really well, other times not so much, but it's like a very early beta right now. But my first reaction was, this is neat. There's real utility to something like this. Granted, there's some privacy concerns, right? It has access to your screenshots. Now, it's supposedly all done on device, but it is Google, and I'm imagining, if you're taking screenshots, you're probably interested in those things, and now Google knows that you're interested in those things. So technically they have a really nice avenue to just send you more targeted ads based on your screenshot collection. But overall, I think it's useful. But then the second reaction I had was like, wait a minute, how is this the headlining feature of this new Pixel phone launch? Like, how is this what they're opening with? Isn't there something more? Like, this is a phone with 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a 4th generation Tensor chip, supposed to be awesome for machine learning, and the Pixel 9 Pro devices include a 1-year subscription to Gemini Advanced. Like, there's a lot of AI capability here. This is it? Like, come on, there's gotta be something more. Now, I spoke to the people at the Google event, the pre-briefing, and there's like, yeah, there's gonna be other features that are announced during the launch, but why weren't they shown in advance? Now, my feeling is that a lot of stuff isn't ready. A lot of stuff is kind of like it's Google, right? The way they kind of brew things over time and then kind of release it. But I'm just surprised that the phone is as expensive as it is. Actually, no, I take that back. The price kind of makes sense to me just based on the RAM and just based on, you know, the way that Google does aggressive sale pricing and stuff. But what doesn't make sense to me is just how limited the AI capabilities that they presented seemed to be, just out of the gate. Now, I hope that over time this stuff becomes awesome, and I hope that by the review embargo lift that there's some real stuff we can talk about, but right now it's like, it just feels a little underbaked. Anyways, that's my kind of early thoughts on the Google Pixel 9 devices. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it.